G'day, welcome back to the channel. Follow up on my last video. Now, the last video was made just an hour or so after the first reports of the incident of the collision between a military helicopter and a passenger air flight over DC. And I was working on the information that was available at the time. Now, most of the all the reports I read said that the helicopter had its ADSB disabled, turned off, wasn't transmitting an ADSB signal. I suspect they may have come up with that conclusion because perhaps Flight Radar 24 was suppressing that data. Now, some of these ADSB tracking systems, they don't show all the data. They're not totally reliable. Certainly in the case of military, they've got special situations where the military won't show up because they don't want to be tracked, even though they're broadcasting ADSB. But it turns out subsequently, it looks like they did have their ADSB operating, which is good. I mean, that's fantastic. But there's another system involved called TCAS, which is a collision avoidance system. Now, Juan Browne, over on the Blancolirio channel, he has suggested that perhaps they didn't have their TCAS transponder on. And even in that situation, TCAS provides limited assistance. It won't deconflict a possible collision, but it will alert you to the fact that a collision is imminent. So the pilots can then take their own decisions as to how to avoid it. It looks also now, if you listen to Donald Trump, it was all down to DEI hires at the FAA for air traffic control. And I got to admit, I mean, I'm not a Trump fanboy, but if you go and look at the FAA's YouTube channel and look at the thumbnails and the people that the FAA puts out front and center, there are a lot, it's overrepresentation of minorities there. So it is possible. And I mean, another thing is that if you look at Juan Browne's channel and the information, he has been warning for some time that it's only a matter of time before there is a major disaster at a major US airport because of air traffic control failures. He's been pointing out that almost on a weekly basis, there are very, very close near misses between airliners and other aircraft at major airports due to failures in the air traffic control system. He's documented many of them on his YouTube channel, and he's even put out a call basically saying this has to be fixed. The FAA, of course, doesn't listen. The FAA is a talk at you, not with you organization. It's the same with regulators around the world. They all seem to have this arrogant stance that you will do what we say, you'll follow our rules, we don't have to listen to you, how dare you question what we're doing. So this ball may end up back in the FAA's court if it's been found that they've been hiring people on the basis of ticking boxes rather than the best people for the job. This would be really, really bad. And this still relates to the hobby. This still relates to the hobby. I'm going to tell you why. Now, I mentioned before that they should have had ADSB going because we have to have RID. Well, if they did have ADSB going, that's great. It doesn't invalidate the argument, but it raises another important issue. Now, mid-air collisions between manned aircraft are far too common. People are dying every month in the USA as a result of mid-air collisions between manned aircraft. And we are told if we're going to fly FPV with goggles on, we need a spotter. We need an observer sitting beside us so we don't crash into an aeroplane, because apparently the high definition cameras on our FPV models are not enough to make sure we don't fly right into the side of a 747. Because the people telling us this have never done it, they don't know, but they're making stuff up, pulling stuff out of their backsides. They're over-regulating us. And because we know even if a drone does hit a manned aircraft, the results are trivial by comparison with two manned aircraft colliding. But we have to have a visual observer. By law, it's a regulation. Yet we have manned aircraft crashing into each other with massive loss of lives on a very regular basis. And manned aircraft don't need to have a spotter. You can be flying a Cessna 172. You don't need anyone in the seat beside you. You are solely responsible for looking out for yourself. Yet you've got all sorts of obstructions to your viewpoint. You've got a wing above you on a 172, you've got an engine cowl in front of you, you can't see down, you've got the floor. Your visual abilities are very limited in a manned aircraft. FPV, you don't even see any of the craft, you just see the world around you with a wide angle camera, high definition video. But we have to have an observer, manned aviation, that keeps banging into each other because they don't see each other coming. No, they don't need an observer. If this was all about safety, if this was all about protecting human lives, manned aviation would require a spotter in the passenger seat every time they fly, but they don't, which again proves my point. This safest form of aviation there has ever been is massively overregulated, while the real risks remain unaddressed by regulation. And manned aviation poses the biggest threat to manned aviation. It's a bigger threat than drones. But we allow people to fly their 172s and so forth without a spotter. Can't fly your drone without a spotter. Not even below the fence in your own garden. If you're flying FPV, you legally have to have a spotter. So yeah, I'm gobsmacked at the way regulators have just completely dropped the ball completely dropped the ball. We're now seeing the repercussions of this. So I will try and keep you up to date. If there's anything big, I will do another video. I don't want to do too many videos on this. I don't like the negative aspects of these things, but we really do. We need to stand up and say, look, you've taken your eye off the ball. You're too busy focusing on our toys and forgetting about the fact that people are dying every week in the skies above our heads. It's not good enough. Focus on the real risks to human life, not people playing with toys in their backyard. Seriously. Anyway, that's my little vent and my correction, because if I've got something wrong, I would like to let you know that it's a mistake. I've got it wrong. I confess, sorry, but I was working on the available information. I've corrected that now, so let's try and keep things accurate, and we'll just see where this goes. But ultimately, it's time they unwound some of the ridiculous regulation on our hobby, or our hobby goes underground. They'd lose total control, as has happened with RID. So few people have put RID on their drones, and apart from the DJI crowd, which have it automatically fitted, non-DJI flyers, most of them flying without RID. So it's a fail. It's a fail. That's what happens when you impose unreasonable restrictions and obligations on a community that is not a risk to human life or property. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again soon.